Hello and welcome to Quick Start to Coding with Swift. Please may I introduce my co-host, Matt. Matt Hanlon is a long-time software developer, coach, teacher and dad in Ireland.
Thanks, Steve. And may I introduce Steve Bunce, an author, teacher, associate lecturer, and dad in the northeast of England.
Thanks, Matt. We have an exciting session for you today. Today we are going to create with shapes. The shapes will move and change colour when we tap them. We're going to use a special Swift playground, and you're going to think about planning a poster for a dance at your school. Well, we're both excited, so let's get started. Hello and welcome to day 10, our final unplugged session together. Today we're going to try and think about everything we've been doing over these last few days. We're going to think about variables and functions and putting it all together in an exciting playground called shapes. And you're going to create different things with shapes with Matt in a moment. So I thought about, well, what could we do for an unplugged activity? Well, our theme this week has been about dance, and therefore we've been thinking, well, could we organise a special dance at your school or at a venue where you could invite everyone to come along, and they could come along and they could maybe dance, they could buy food or buy drinks, and they could have an exciting time all there. And when we were dancing, we could also think about, we've been learning about variables for beats per minute. We've been learning about different commands for different dance moves, remember? Okay? So all of these things are going to come together and we're going to think about creating an activity today. So let me show you what we're going to do with Matt in a moment, and then that will help shape what we're going to do now as our unplugged activity. So today you'll be using the Shapes playground. With Matt, he'll be taking you through how you can change the words and the colours of these things. And you can see it says Hello World. It has a hexagon, a rounded rectangle and a circle. Well, these could be inspirations for our poster to advertise our dance. So let's just start with the text. So here I have a piece of paper. I could use my pencil to do this. Or again, I could use, for example, I used my big marker today so you can see it more clearly on the screen. So let's see. At the top, I could just say in big letters, dance. And that tells everybody what's going on. Okay, so there's my first bit of text. I could then add some more text underneath. Say, come along for dancing fun. So there we are, so I've got some text at the top. Now what would come next? Well, you can see, I could use a line. So I have a ruler here. I could just use a simple ruler and I could draw a line. That was one thing I could put in there. Okay, there's my line. And then what else could we have? Well, you could see a circle. Well, you could look around the classroom or at home for different things. So it could be you could go and find a pot which has got a nice round lid. Or I found some tape here. I think I'll use this. So using the tape, I could just draw around the inside of that circle. So off we go, round, nice circle there. There we go. There's my circle. Right. And that could be my, glitter ball. Yes, I like a glitter ball. So it's nice and exciting. I use that circle there to make that into my glitter ball. Let's put a sparkle on it. There's line at the top. Okay, so there is my exciting glitter ball, which I'm going to use at the disco. Fantastic. So I've used some shapes there, haven't I? I've used a circle, I've used a line, and I've added some text. Well, what else could we add? Well, maybe people need to know some information, don't they? So we could use some more text. It could be, for example, the start time. So start could be 7 p.m. Okay. And that's a variable, isn't it? That's what a number which we could say that could change for different dances. And it could say finish. Well, we don't want it ever to finish, but let's say it finishes it at 9 p.m. Okay. So we've got two variables we could pop in there. And they are, in this case, like our shapes, some text. Now what else? Well, we've got a shape which is a bit like a rounded rectangle. So what I've got here is I've got a box. Let's see, I've got a box here and I could just draw around it. Where can I put this? I know, I shall pop it here on my page. I'll put it in the middle. And I could start it. Let's see, I could do some things. I think I shall draw around it here. So I'll draw around my box and do a nice rounded corner. Rounded corner there. Around the corner there. And up. And around the top. To start. Okay, oh, a bit wobbly, missed a bit. So what we got is there we have a rounded shape where I've got around the corners. And that's making another part of my graphic on the screen. So now what? Well, let's see. Circles, lines, rounded rectangles. Oh, we could put a hexagon in there as well, too. We could have some different shapes. So I might just have over here a hexagon. So I'll try and draw a hexagon there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sides. And again, you could look around the house for any resources or any around the school which has got any resources which might be hexagonal in shape. You could draw around those. And this could be, let's see, what else could we put in there? How much is it going to cost to get in? I'm going to charge just £1 to get in. Okay, so I'll put that inside my hexagon. And what else could I do? I could say there's, for example, drinks available. There we go, drinks. So pretty good so far. We've got a title. Move my pencils out of the way. And we've got a glitter ball. We've got the start time. We've got the price to get in. Drinks. Now, maybe we could just add for this last bit of the poster the type of music we're going to be playing. So I could put in, let's use another line. There we go. And which type of music we're going to do? Well, we could put a little emoji or a picture in. I'm going to put an emoji of a banana. There we go. Picture of a banana. Because I would like it to be the music banana, banana, and a meatball. Now, let's have another circle for a meatball. Okay, there's my meatball. Okay, so the music's going to be with an emoji or a picture, banana, banana, meatball. Okay, so far, so good. So what else do we have on our poster? Well, let's look at our shapes, and you can see that they're actually different colours. So what if we actually then coloured in our poster? That would make sense, wouldn't it? To make it more attractive to people. So for example, I could come down here to my pictures of the bananas, and I could colour them in. A nice yellow there. Okay. So nice yellow bananas. Okay, add those. And let's say yellow there, and colour it in. And you can spend some time just making this look really nice and attractive. Maybe felt tip pens would be brighter and more attractive. Okay, so you can see I've just started to colour those in, but take your time, colour yours in too. I'll use a brown here for my meatball. Okay, so make it look nice and attractive. Think about the colours you might use. Which colours are you going to use as your theme? Is there a theme for the dance, like a particular colour scheme that you like to use? Okay, and then look back again at the different shapes we have here. So again, you can see we've got different lines, different colours, different shapes to use. So keep adding to your poster, please. So you can design your poster and thinking about the text and the variables at the start time. You could also make, for example, a drinks menu. And here you can see we've got the prices, which are variables, and you can change those too. We've also used our rounded rectangle shape here and the text. And then finally, you might create a song list. So for example, you see we've got an emoji, some text and some things in there, but mainly we're thinking about which of the songs you want to play. You could even include some emojis or even the number of beats per minute. So let's see, beats per minute could be 140. Okay, so we can add all those things in together to make up our different posters for the dance. The song list, the drinks menu, and the dance itself. So thank you for all of your great ideas and effort and all of that dancing. I think it must be time to go and do some practice dancing for the big dance. So, shall see you again soon. Keep dancing.
Thanks, Steve. All right, today is day 10, our final day of coding through the Quick Start to Code with Swift PDF. And today we're taking a little bit different leap. Yesterday we had a ton of fun because we built a game, which is for many people the point of coding, because you want to get to the point where you can make a game. But today we're going to open up Swift Playgrounds and we're going to work with a different playground. And I think it can be just as exciting as the game stuff for a lot of you. So we're working with the Shapes Playground today. If you don't see that here or down here, you're going to hit See All on More Playgrounds. This is one of the starting points. So this is where you can start to go, since you guys have had a lot of experience this week with coding, now you can start to explore these starting points in here. We have Sonic Create, Camera Create, which is based on the Lights Camera Code playground that we played with. Sensor Create is a lot of fun. Answers is a great playground for building quizzes to give to your friends. We can do some graphing if you're interested in some of the more geometry-based stuff like we did with spirals the other day. But we're going to get the Shapes playground. So I've already got it, so I'm going to go back to my playgrounds. I'm going to open up Shapes. And today we're just going to be playing with the canvas. So we have a space over here. And if we hit run my code, we've got two lines of code. We've got a line of code that says let circle equals to circle. So we have a variable called circle. So remember we talked about that var keyword. We can also use a let keyword. That's just a slightly different type of variable. We create an instance of our type circle, because that's a type that we talked about earlier in the week. And then we can call methods and we can set properties on that instance by using dot notation. So a circle has a draggable property. So we say circle.draggable and we set that to true. Now we can find out what other properties a circle might have by typing in or tapping down in the autocomplete bar circle, hitting the dot here in the autocomplete bar, and then we can see all of these different options. We can set the radius, the border color, whether it's draggable or not. We can set these different handlers here, these different functions that'll get called when a touch on the object has been canceled, or somebody touches down on the circle, or somebody touches down and then up on the circle. When they're dragging on it, we can ask to remove it from the scene, we can rotate it, and we can scale it. So we're going to delete this line. We're just going to run with the code that we were given. So hit run. Cool, now I've got a circle in the middle of my screen. If I tap on it, because I've set draggable to true, I can see that it animates a little bit when I touch it, and then I can drag it around the screen and place it anywhere. So this might give you some ideas for, maybe how could I use this for a game or for an app that I want someone to use. And in fact, let's build a little mini app. So you guys can pick whatever images you like, or whatever shapes. So we've got a circle out there. I'm going to go use that let keyword to create another shape. Let's call this one rectangle. You'll notice it's all lowercase because when we define variables, we try to give them lowercase names. If I had two words in there, like big rectangle, the B in big would be lowercase, and then the R in rectangle would be uppercase because it's camel case. So I can see down here in the autocomplete bar, I'll be able to see what types I have available to me. Oops. So I have canvas, circle, color, image, rectangle, shadow, shape, size, text. Let's create a rectangle. And to create an instance of a rectangle, I need to use a function-like thing. It's called an initializer. And there are a few different ones here. I can just use an initializer that specifies a width and a height. So let's do that. I'm going to say, let's say it'll be, the width will be 50 and the height will be just 20. So run my code. Okay, cool. There's my rectangle. Now I have a small problem here because I've just put my rectangle over my circle. So I can't drag the circle, and I haven't set the draggable property on my rectangle either. So what we could do is we could make the rectangle draggable. We could position it differently. We could change the color. We could make it smaller. What would you do? I'm going to try a few things. I'm going to change the color, and I think I'm going to make it, I'm going to move the position of it. So I'm going to start with the rectangle. I'm going to use the dot to access the properties on my rectangle. Oh, and you know what? I always get distracted as soon as I tap on that dot notation and I get my autocomplete list. Corner radius is kind of cool. Let's set that. So we'll assign this property a value. We'll say equals. And it's a double, so that's a type of number. It could be a number with a decimal part. So let's just say 5 for now. And then let's hit the return key over here. And I'm gonna do what I came here to do, which is set the position of it. To set the position of one of these shapes, we can specify the center point. So this center point, we have to assign it a value, and it's going to be of type point. And we saw this in the Lights Camera Code playground. We were specifying points by X and Y coordinates. Remember, this is divided up into, it starts at 0 here. This is the positive X axis. This is the positive Y axis. So I'm going to try to put the rectangle down low. So let's see, the center will be, we'll start getting a point. We'll tap on point in the autocomplete bar. We'll use our initializer with a double and a double. So I want it to be centered. So we'll use a 0 for the X value. And then for Y, we'll use minus, say, 250. That might be too low, but we'll try that out. Let's hit run. Yep, too low. So let's try bringing that up a little bit. Let's say minus 100. How about that? Might still be too low. Still too low. Let's go again. And there's no harm in lots of trial and error with your code, especially in these playgrounds. Still too low. So how about we do minus 10? Okay. That's not low enough. Let's try one more. Let's go 25 and see if that works out for us. Okay, that looks good. My rectangle's on the bottom. I'm kind of happy with that. It looks like the ground. I might make that a little bit shorter. I can tap on my circle and move it around. I still can't tap on my rectangle and move it. But this is looking good. If I want to change the color of my rectangle, I would hit return. Pick rectangle from my autocomplete bar. I can hit the dot for dot notation. This autocomplete bar is a lifesaver. It makes it so easy to go and do proper common syntax that you want to follow when you're building up your app and your code. They've really given us a lot of thought about how you might use this. So let's set our color here. I'm going to use generic color instead of saying the border. I'm going to assign it a color. I love this feature of Swift Playgrounds. We can tap on this little swatch here and pick our color. So make it green down there. I'm going to change the height. Maybe to, well, let's change it to 10. I hit run my code. Okay, now it looks like I've got a grassy field at the bottom. I've got my ball here. I can put the ball down on the field. What kind of shapes are you using so far? So there's another interesting one that we can use, that we use a lot when we're building games, is sometimes we can't just use circles and rectangles and basic shapes. We want to use images that maybe a designer has designed for us. So we can use images here in the Shapes Playground. So I'm going to create a new one. I'm actually going to call this bird, because I'm going to try to find an image of a bird. So we're going to make this of type image. So if I scroll over here in the autocomplete bar, there's an image type. And I know it's a type because it's got a capital first letter. So I in image is capitalized, so I can hit I. Now I have to use the parentheses, and I can give it a name. So I can pass in a name here. Now, this would require me maybe guessing what the name of my images are called. So there's another way to create an instance of an image in this case. We can actually tap on this. We're going to delete it. But before we delete it, we're actually going to replace it with this thing here. So we have our color swatch there. This is our image picker. So we're going to tap on that. So now I can go and pick an image. So actually I have one in here. So this is the bird. I'm going to use that. So that'll be my image. Here, let's run this. Okay, it's telling me here to import UIKit to use UI image as the default image literal type. That sounds a little bit foreign. But really, we're just telling Swift, hey, there's this other framework that we need to include. It's a framework is just a bunch of code that someone else has written. UIKit happens to be that framework, and it includes this thing called UI image. So let's go up here. In fact, this may not work out for us, but we'll just try anyway. Hit return a couple times, and at the very top, to use another framework, I'm actually just going to type in import UI, and you can see it's auto-completing for me. There's a whole bunch of other frameworks that I could have imported. I'll import UIKit, and let's try running it, see if that works. Okay, I don't see my bird. So maybe this thing isn't the right way to set an image. I can move my circle, and I can see that it's not hiding underneath the circle. So we're going to delete that. Nice try. Now we're going to try using an image type. Again, we're going to get an instance of an image. Now we're going to say, we're going to use this name string. There's some other things that we could use. We're going to use name string. And now I happen to know that this image is called Swift Bird. So let's hit the ABC in quotes, and we are going to type capital S, W-I-F-T, bird. Get rid of that. Get rid of the keyboard. Now let's try running it. But before I do, I'm going to give you a couple seconds to type that in yourself. Make sure you type it exactly as you see it on the screen. How are you making out? Have you copied all that code in? You can actually get rid of that import UI kit. That was just an experiment we were trying out. But this shows you the power of Swift Playgrounds. We can import any one of the system frameworks on the iPad, and we can start using it right away. So if we want to build an augmented reality app or a photos app, we can actually write a lot of code that we would write as professional coders right in Swift Playgrounds. That's amazing to have this power in a tool that's so easy to use. All right, how did you make out? Let's go. I'm actually going to go clean up some of my code, because the less code I have on the screen, the less confused we're going to get. So let's hit run my code. All right, there, we've got our bird. We can, unfortunately, now we can't tap on the circle again. The bird is over the circle. But we have our Swift bird showing up on the screen. Now let's try to make this a little bit more interesting, like a game. So this circle has been kind of a problem because it's always stuck underneath our elements whenever we add it. So let's do two things. First, we're going to make the bird draggable. So we'll go down here. Now you'll notice my cursor is on the end of the line where I created the bird instance. So I'm going to hit return, go to the next line. And I'm going to say bird dot, I'm going to change the draggable property to true equals true. So now when I hit run, I'm going to be able to drag the bird out of the way, and then I can drag the circle out of the way. But because the circle's been kind of a pain, so let's actually get rid of that code, and we're going to create a button that when we press on the button, we're actually going to move the bird. So I'm going to tap here. And actually, instead of deleting all of it, since I need to create an instance of a button, I'm going to call this button. Now there's a nice element in the Shapes Playground called text. So if we scroll through our autocomplete bar and we scroll way to the end, we can see the element called text. So I'm going to hit text. I'm going to use the open parentheses. And this is kind of cool. I can specify the string with a font size and a font name and a color. I'm just going to specify string. And we're going to type in some text here. So we're going to call this, maybe we're going to move the bird. So we'll call it fly away. Will be our string. Now, we're going to have a few errors here. If we try running our code, we have a few problems here. So I get the first message is I have an unterminated string literal. Again, not super helpful, but all that means is that I have one quotation mark, but I didn't finish it off. I need to have them wrapping either side of my string. So I'm going to add the next one after it. So I bring up my keyboard, I go to the L key and drag down, tap and drag down. Okay, so that's cool. So if I hit run my code, I have another error, my next error. So it's telling me use of unresolved identifier circle. Remember, we replaced circle with button. So what we could do is we could change that to button, and then that red dot would go away. Or we could say, actually, we don't want to make our button draggable. That doesn't make a lot of sense. So let's actually get rid of that line. So I'm going to tap on true. I'm going to start hitting delete. Just the delete key down here. Okay, now if I run my code, okay, fly away is beneath our bird, so that's not ideal. So let's change the center of the button. So I'm going to do button dot center, and we have to assign it a value, and that center is a point value, so we're going to choose point from the very start of the autocomplete bar. We can just hit autocomplete until now we have to type in some numbers. So we'll keep it centered. So we'll say 0. And then y will be, let's say, 15. That's kind of a guess based on the experimenting we did with the green rectangle at the bottom. So let's try running our code and see where we're at. Okay, that's cool. It's a piece of text. We can move the bird. We can't tap the rectangle, or we can tap it, but it doesn't do anything. Now, what do we have to do to get the bird to move? when we tap on that button? Well, this is a little bit like the more advanced stuff we did in Lights Camera Code Playground. So if I hit the return button here a few times to get down, because I want to work on my button all in one spot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set an on touch up method. So it's kind of like we did when, remember when we connected the photo taken property on our camera, our Swifty camera, to the image input for our image view. This is a little bit like that. We're going to be connecting them up using some functions. So we're going to start typing in button. In fact, we're just going to hit autocomplete. We'll hit the dot. And we've seen it already in here as we scroll through our autocomplete bar. There's this on touch up block. So we're actually going to touch on that. And this is the most common case when you're writing an app, especially on the iPad. People expect the action to be taken once you touch your finger down and then pick it back up again. So it's called on touch up is when we're interested in actually running our code. So one thing we can do is we can we can change the bird center by adding 1 to the X and Y points. Maybe then it'll go, what'll happen is it'll be 0, 0 to start, and then it'd be 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, and it would sort of move off in a diagonal fashion. So can you think of what tool you might use that we've gone over that you would use to repeat something over and over again? Just adding 1 each time. Here, I'll give you 1 minute to have a think about that. What tool would you use inside of our block here? And what we're doing is we're looking to change the position of our bird. So we would use that center property. If you come up with an idea, might be something to do with loops that we covered a while back, because it's kind of a pattern to move something, adding 1 to each axis at the same time. All right, let's try it out. So I have inside here, and these braces are just telling me that I'm going to group this code together. It'll all get run together. Anything that happens inside these braces, once someone puts their finger down and takes it up off my flyaway button. So I'm going to use a for loop. Maybe that's what you decided to. I'm going to hit the for button there. And it says for I in 1 ... And let's say we'll just do it to say 25. And now we're going to add 1 to our, and in fact, you know what? We don't even need to add 1. We could use here. So as we go through our loop, the first time we go through the loop, this variable I is going to be equal to 1. The next time through the loop, it's going to be equal to 2. The next time through, it's going to be equal to 3. So we can just use that to change our center point of the bird. Okay, cool. Let's try that then. So we are going to use a little trick first, though. So to make it look really cool, I can see down here in my autocomplete bar, I have this animate block that I can use. So I'm actually going to use animate. And now I'm going to write my code inside here so that when we draw it to the screen, it actually looks kind of smooth the way it animates across. So we've got animate, we've got our code. You can look at more into animation on the last page of this playground. So now what we need to do is say, we're going to start typing in bird.center. And you'll see why I'm typing it in by hand right now, because we have a small problem with this. Space, I'm going to use the equal sign to assign a value to it. The equal sign is above the D, so I'll tap and hold down. So I'm having an issue. It's throwing an error. I've got a red dot. Unexpected expression assignment. Okay, that's fine. I've just got to keep typing my line, finishing it out. So I want to assign it a point. And we saw before, our points look like this. Point with an open parentheses, x colon, a number, comma, y, comma, a number. Y colon, a number. Let's do that. So we'll do point, parentheses I can get to from here. So I can drag down on the J into the side. And it actually gives me the autocomplete here, so I can hit double, double. Now remember, I mentioned that as we go through the loop, that I value changes each time. So let's just use the value of I for our X value. And tap on the Y double and say I. And let's try running our code. Oh, it says use of unresolved identifier bird. But you might be screaming at the screen, oh, there's bird defined down here. Why couldn't it pick that up? Well, the way Swift is reading this particular code is from top to bottom. And at this stage, it knows nothing about the bird yet. So I have to go down to the bottom. I have to tap there. Actually, I'm just going to tap let. And if I double tap it, it'll give me this little selection thing so I can drag it. Now that I've dragged it, I'm going to tap on the blue area and cut that. So when I cut something, it takes it off the editor and it puts it in my pasteboard. And then I'm actually going to put the bird up at the very top. So I'll tap again once and I'll hit paste. You might find that this is really difficult to tap and bring up those menus and have it show up. That's fine. We can always just retype this. So now, if I have a look, I've got some errors. Well, it tells me that I can't convert a value of type int to expected argument type double. Okay, that's fine. That's telling me here. I actually have a thing that I can fix here. Let's hit fix. Okay. Oh, it shows me the same message again. And it's complaining about the value that I'm passing it to y. So I can hit fix. And in this case, it does the right thing for me. It wraps my variable I in a double initializer. And that seems to have gotten rid of all of my errors. So let's hit run my code. Hopefully you've gotten to this point. In fact, let's give you a second. I'll give you a minute to try to catch up there. Again, if you ever get stuck, you can always go up to the top, those three dots, and hit reset page. And we can reset from the start. We haven't written a whole lot of code just yet. We've written a decent amount, not a whole lot. So at the very start, we have a new variable called bird. We assign an instance of an image to it. Make sure that you've typed Swift bird right with the right capitalization and everything. We've made the bird draggable. And then we created a button. And it's of type text. And we just gave it a string fly away. So you can see fly away there. The string just means words. We set the center of the button so that it appeared here. We set these actions to happen when we actually touch that text field, the fly away text. And then we created a rectangle for the bottom. We didn't need to create the rectangle. Let's run this and see what we have. Okay, so there's my bird. If I hit the button fly away now, we can see that our bird kind of shot off to the corner. Now if I hit fly away again, nothing happens. Maybe if I drag my bird back and I hit fly away, you'll see the same thing happens. It flies away, and it always flies in the same pattern because it hits the same points on our grid as it goes. It goes from 1 through to 25 on the X and Y axis. Now you can make this one your own. You can kind of play around. Now that you've got a button that can animate a bird's position, maybe you could mess around with this a little bit more. Maybe you could use different images that you have in your photo library. I highly recommend going through the rest of this code. There's so much fun stuff, and they talk more about how you get things to interact with touch, how you can animate shapes, and you can animate all sorts of properties on the shapes. So we've just animated the center position of the bird, but you could animate things like the rotation, the scale, so you could have it grow and shrink. A bit like it moves when I tap on the bird and drag it around. That kind of animation you could do yourself. I hope you've had fun with all this coding we've done this week. There's been a lot to take in. This has been some fairly complex code, and you've gone from 0 to 100 miles an hour very, very fast. Even if you're still feeling a little bit bewildered, I really encourage you to keep going and keep trying. You can do some really fun stuff. Pick the thing that you like the most, whether it was playing around with shapes like we did today and adding buttons, whether it was building out full cameras. Maybe you liked playing with the spirals in the spirals playground. Or maybe you really enjoyed solving those puzzles in Learn to Code 1 and 2. There's lots of different ways you can go with coding, and lots of different ways you can use the tools that we've shown you this week. So I hope you stick with it, because this is just the start of a really, really fun journey.